Hey guys, so this is going to be a new style of reviews that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks. Just sort of talking unscripted rather than well thought out way. This is like literally just like half an hour or so after I finish watching the episode for the first time. So this is kind of like just immediate thoughts, but I have sort of taken the time to sort of jot down thoughts and properly think things through. This is basically just to try and save myself a bit of time because I kind of need a break from, really committing myself to reviews like on a weekly basis. Filli Vanilli. I'm not entirely sure what that title means, but whatever. So yeah, this was good. I didn't absolutely love it or anything, but yeah, it was a very enjoyable kind of episode, as the Amy Keaton-Rogers episodes kind of are. Very sort of important kind of lesson for kids, I think, about facing up to your fears and doing something about it. And not just sort of hiding away and trying to sort of push it to the back of your mind or anything. So, you need to face up to things like that. So the first kind of weird thing that I noticed in the opening scene is how sort of shocked the other five are at the fact that Fluttershy is a great singer. It's like, have they never heard her sing before? It's like, she has definitely had songs in the show before where they have been present. Her solo part in at the gala. Find a Pet. The Bat song from this season, actually. They're all there listening to her sing there. So are they not happening within the context of the show or something? Are they just something there that's there for the viewers? Is that just dialogue in reality to them? But obviously that song is happening in reality. I like the way she has flowers inserted into her mane partway through the song there. For some reason, as soon as that happened, I just instantly heard in my head, "Oh, I wish I was a punk rock girl with flowers in my hair." Yeah, I can't sing, I'm sorry. As is normally the case with Amy Keaton-Rogers episodes, Pinkie Pie was absolutely on fire again, absolutely cracked me up, everything she did. I can see some people maybe having a problem with the fact that she's very over the top and she's very eccentric and perhaps she's taking away from the mood of the episode a little bit, but to me that's just Pinkie. That is Pinkie's character to an absolute T, and Amy Keaton-Rogers just understands that perfectly. And I think she is starting to understand in the same way that I think M.A. Larson understood. That if you just insert Pinkie in there just being Pinkie, it just adds so much to the episode. She's been a little juvenile and out of character in some parts in this season, and it seems like they're just trying to sort of have Pinkie on screen and they're not really sure what to do with her, so they just have her be kind of random. But I think here, what she had to say and what she was doing did just about add enough to the experience of the episode that it didn't feel out of place, it didn't feel tacked on. It was sort of adding to the story. She didn't go on for too long, and it was just the right kind of level. And I'm thrilled that Amy Keaton-Rogers is back this season because she just understands how to write Pinkie perfectly. The weird shot of Fluttershy's arse partway through that quartet performing, she's sort of shaking about. It seemed it's kind of weird. They held on it for a bit too long to me. Cranky makes a cameo during the whole gobble turkey impression thing that was going on. Again, this is by script help. Can't even remember what it was called. Another Amy Keaton-Rogers episode, interestingly enough. And I also get the impression with that scene that the writers, or Amy Keaton-Rogers, was just maybe thinking to herself, okay, I'm trying to think what would be the most random, out of place, weird way for Big Mac to lose his voice without it, seeming just kind of too bizarre, and impersonating a turkey just seemed to fit sort of quite well. And also some interesting kind of Pinkie stuff again. And then sort of once we established that Big Mac has lost his voice, I kind of just assumed at that point, obviously Fluttershy is just going to join the quartet and she's going to perform with them, just as another member. Saying, okay, there's no Big Mac now we have Fluttershy. So when she said, oh, I can think of a remedy, let's go to Zecora, I was sort of like, oh god, I know where this is going. Can we just sort of get to that point, where Fluttershy's part of the quartet and, not bother with this bit? But actually, of course, as it turned out, it took a little bit of a turn in a slightly different direction from what I was expecting. And going to Zecora was actually relevant because Fluttershy had to change her voice. She had to become Flutter Guy. Awesome bit of continuity again. Another Amy Keaton-Rogers episode, Bridal Gossip. And I guess that is why Amy Keaton-Rogers wrote this episode. So that was pretty cool, and it fits in with the episode. It's not just continuity for the sake of continuity, it's actually relevant. That was all awesome, although Zecora's rhyming still kind of annoys me, really. I could do without it, really, to be honest. It kind of distracts me from the actual plot, I think, at times. And it just seems very sort of out of place. I mean, what exactly is the point of it? Does anybody sort of think to ask Zecora at any time, Zecora, why do you talk like that? It's just... Another bit of continuity from another Amy Kitten Rogers episode is Goldie Delicious also makes a cameo. Come out of her house and has decided to come to Ponyville. I wonder if maybe she had something to tell Applejack about Pinkie being related to the Apple family or something. Nah, probably just something the animators added in, so no, I don't think that actually means anything. No appearance in there. Now, probably the biggest problem I think this episode will have for, maybe not so much myself personally, but I think I can see a lot of people having a problem with this, is the big stretch in suspension of disbelief that people are going to have to take with Fluttershy mouthing or singing for Big Mac. In all of those performances in front of all those ponies, nobody notices that he's actually not singing, that he's just miming. Nobody sort of thinks, it kind of sounds like Big Mac's trying to throw his voice, like particularly with that performance for the school where Fluttershy is singing outside the window. Do none of the fillies or colts, none of them think to sort of say, kind of sounds like Big Mac singing outside the window? And also the fact that Fluttershy had to learn that song in less than a day. So yeah, big stretch in suspension of disbelief I think you have to take there. But personally I was willing to buy it because interesting to see Fluttershy sort of face up to her fear in some kind of way and, choosing to actually perform under a little bit of pressure, even though, she wasn't actually performing in front of people, and if she did mess up, it wouldn't actually be her that would be sort of seen to be the person that failed. But at the same time, if she fails, she would feel responsible for people turning to Big Mac and thinking that he's failed. She kind of inadvertently sort of sees that she actually does like performing. She just is kind of fearful when she actually sees people looking at her. Again, it is kind of like, very sort of human nature, it's an irrational fear. She enjoys performing, but at the same time she's afraid of performing. So, yeah, I really kind of like that. So, to me, this suspension of disbelief sort of thing of actually believing that Big Mac was mouthing the whole time, that did not bother me too much, because this is kind of an interesting idea I do kind of like. Kind of a weird sort of Clark Kent kind of moment where Fluttershy walks back from behind the stage and Pinkie's like, "Where were you, Fluttershy? You missed everything." It's kind of like, when Clark Kent comes back after Superman's saved someone. And also Fluttershy is the one to choose to do all of these performances. She is not she's not being forced into this by Rarity. I can see that, being something that they would have said, this is kind of dickish of Rarity to force all these performances on Fluttershy when we know she isn't comfortable performing. So, Fluttershy is the one that actually wants to do these performances. So yeah, again, really like that. Very sort of likable kind of an understandable behaviour by these characters in this episode. Real attention to detail. The only thing that was missing, I think, from this whole sort of, what would you call it, like sort of a third act maybe, is I would have been interested to know exactly what Big Macintosh thought of all of this. Was he comfortable with, all these people applauding him and being, "Oh wow, great performance," and knowing that it actually wasn't him? He doesn't sort of deserve any of this kind of attention because he's not actually been doing anything. What does he think of being the person who's just on stage taking all the glory for not actually doing anything? I mean, obviously he is originally there for a reason, because he originally was able to sing. The fact that they're now getting all of this attention now that Fluttershy is suddenly singing for him, I'd have been interested to know what he actually thought of that. It's also, in a way, a similar kind of irrational fear that Fluttershy had in Hurricane Fluttershy. That, she thinks people are laughing at her, she thinks, she's being humiliated here and being incredibly embarrassed, when in actual fact, the other ponies watching her are nothing but supportive of her. Again, it's a very sort of irrational kind of fear that Fluttershy feels, it's an internal thing that Fluttershy is sort of battling with herself about. I also like the attention to detail of after Fluttershy has been found out, which I think, again, could have been done a bit more subtly and a bit less predictable. Like, really, you could see that coming a mile off, really, when she got discovered. But I like the way that when she goes back to her house and they find her, you can see her coming out of the bathroom, with the steam coming out of the door. So, you can tell that she's been bathing in the antidote, and so it makes sense that her voice is now back to normal. So it's a good little attention to detail there. They didn't actually have to have anyone come in and explain, "Oh, look, Fluttershy has bathed in the antidote. Her voice must be back to normal." No, they understand, the writers, that, we can figure that out for ourselves by just seeing her coming out of the bathroom. Just a quick, she's bathed in the antidote. Okay, move on. Also, I think probably Pinkie's best moment in the entire episode was when she runs out of the house screaming to Fluttershy, "You are great!" That absolutely cracked me up. Just the way that Andrea Lippman delivers that line and the way she's running down the path at the same time, that just fits perfectly. That just, I think, was probably the funniest line of the entire episode. A very, very sort of standard kind of story in a kid's show is obviously characters having to face up to a fear. And it does actually kind of irritate me the way normally in kid shows these episodes end with the character having now conquered their fear. And that really irritates me because it very rarely works like that. Fear is an extremely difficult thing to overcome, and it takes a long time. It's kind of like giving up an addiction. You really have to sort of take very small steps with it of saying, okay, slightly less, then slightly less, then slightly less, or in the case of facing up to your fear, okay, face up to maybe a small amount of it, then a slightly larger amount. You do have to, as Fluttershy actually says in the episode, you do have to take baby steps with it. It does take a long time. It is not something that you can just switch on and off like a light, because it's an internal thing. It's something instinctive. It's something that is part of who you are almost. It's not something that you can ever really just sort of say, okay, I'm not afraid of this anymore. No, it's something instinctive in your head that you really can't do anything about. Although I would have liked to have at least seen Fluttershy give it a go at performing in front of a huge crowd, and just see her maybe fail maybe a little bit. She was doing okay maybe for a minute or so, and then suddenly she freezes or something. And I also like the fact in this episode that we sort of see that Fluttershy, while she is not performing in front of a crowd, it's quite obvious that she does really enjoy performing. She does enjoy singing. It's just that, she doesn't enjoy, the pressure of seeing everybody watching her. So kind of sort of showing that sort of difference between enjoying the experience of doing what she does, but at the same time not enjoying the attention of it. And I can actually kind of relate to that enjoyment of singing. I mean, I can't sing at all. And I kind of hate that fact, because the experience of a song and actually being able to sing it, that has to add just so, because I love music and I just love experiencing a song that I absolutely love. So being able to actually sing it as well, that just has to be so much more enjoyable. I don't know if these journals really are particularly necessary though. I don't know if I like these. They don't seem to tie in particularly well with the lesson of the episode, and they're perhaps spelling things out a bit. The letters made a bit more sense, I thought, because it was the character sort of relating or explaining to somebody else, what they'd learned, somebody, that they can look up to. But you could still have the other 5 right to Celestia, couldn't you? No, I don't know if I really like the idea of the journal, but whatever. It's a minor point. Perhaps the plot could have been a bit more complicated. Perhaps there could have been a bit more going on. I get the feeling, the plot feels a little bit too straightforward, perhaps for a 20-minute episode. You can sort of see where it's going from probably about the 15 or so minute mark of. Perhaps there are certain points of the episode that it sort of drags. It drags its feet a little bit. It's very obvious where it's going, and it just needs to take time to get there. With all the singing, actually, the songs, or is it even just one song, actually? It didn't really add very much to the episode. I didn't think it was a particularly good song. But yeah, it was certainly an enjoyable episode from a comedic standpoint. It's a very interesting kind of lesson. It's difficult to put my finger on, and it does feel a little bit like something's lacking from the plot. It feels like it could have used something a little bit extra. I think probably a bit more of a window into how the other 5 felt about all of this, and how maybe Big Mac felt about it as well. Could have added a little bit. But overall, yes, it was a very enjoyable kind of episode. For what it was a pretty solid kind of episode. It just could have maybe had, a little bit of extra plot in it somewhere. Probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10, I would say. Good episode, and Amy Keaton-Rogers, she just knows how to write Pinkie Pie. She's just an absolute genius when it comes to writing Pinkie, or any form of comedy, for that matter. So yeah, that's that, guys. See you next week.